The hall was silent at first, but then the whispers began. The alien girl stood in the center, her wrists bound with iron cuffs that were too heavy for her thin arms. She lowered her head, her silver hair falling across her face, hiding her eyes. She had been here before. Not once, not twice. 7 times she had stood before buyers, and 7 times she had been rejected. They had called her many names: broken, useless, worthless. Each word was like a knife cutting deeper into her heart. She had no strength left to fight back. Her spirit felt empty. She was only waiting for the end. The auctioneer slammed his staff against the floor. His voice echoed through the dark hall. "Look at her." Sent back again. "No one wants her. She is broken. Who will take such trash?" The crowd laughed. Some alien shouted cruel things. "Throw her into the mines!" One sneered. "She will not last a week," another jeered. The girl flinched at their words, but she did not raise her head. She did not want to see their faces, their eyes full of disgust. She knew what they thought of her. She knew what her fate would be. Her legs shook. The iron chains rattled as she tried to keep standing. Her heart pounded slowly, heavy with fear. She remembered each rejection clearly. The first man had looked at her and turned away without a word. The second had laughed and called her weak. The third had pushed her shoulder to test her strength, then spat on the ground in disgust. And it went on until the 7th buyer had sent her back, saying, "She is broken beyond repair." Those words haunted her. Broken beyond repair. She believed them now. She believed she was nothing. The auctioneer raised his voice again. "This is your last chance. Take her or she will be discarded. Even a mind slave has more value than this one." The crowd roared with laughter. Some clapped their hands in mock applause. Others shook their heads, calling her cursed. The girl felt her knees weaken. The world around her blurred. She wanted to disappear, to sink into the floor, to escape the cruel eyes staring at her. In that moment she thought of the life she once had. A home, laughter, and gentle voices. But those memories felt like dreams now, distant, unreachable. She was nothing more than an object for trade. Her heart whispered only one wish: let it end. Let me vanish. But then a sound broke through the noise. It was not cruel. It was not mocking. It was a voice, calm, steady, and different. "I'll take her." The hall froze. Every whisper stopped. Every laugh died in the throat. Heads turned toward the back, searching for the source. The girl's body went still. Her breath caught in her chest. Did she hear it right? Did someone want her? The auctioneer frowned. "What did you say?" A man stepped forward. His clothes were simple, travel-worn. His eyes, though, were steady and strong. He repeated, louder this time, "I said I'll take her." The crowd erupted in shock. "A human?" someone shouted. "He's mad!" Another hissed. Humans were rare here. Few dared to walk these halls. But this one stood tall, his gaze fixed on the girl. He did not flinch at the laughter nor at the auctioneer's sneer. "You do not understand," the auctioneer said. "She is broken, worthless. Even for free, she is no good." The human's voice did not shake. "I want her." The girl trembled. Her heart raced. She did not dare to lift her head. Was this another trick? Another cruel joke? Coins clinked against the wooden counter as the human laid down payment without hesitation. The auctioneer stared, almost in disbelief, but greed won. He snatched the coins and waved his staff. "Fine, she is yours. Take her, fool." Chains were unlocked. The iron cuffs fell from her wrists, leaving red marks on her skin. She staggered but caught herself before falling. Slowly, she raised her eyes. For the first time, she looked at the man who had spoken for her. He was not like the others. His expression was not filled with scorn. His gaze was steady, calm, and most shocking of all, kind. He reached into his pack and pulled out a cloak. Without a word, he draped it over her shoulders. The warmth of the fabric made her gasp softly. No one had given her kindness for so long. His voice was low, almost a whisper, meant only for her. "You're safe now." Her lips parted, but no words came out. Her throat tightened. Tears stung her eyes. The hall around them was still full of whispers and mocking laughter, but in that moment none of it mattered. For the first time in a long, dark journey, the girl felt something stir inside her chest. It was fragile, trembling, almost too weak to believe in, but it was there. Hope. And so began her broken return. Not as the end, but as the start of something no one in that hall could have imagined. The crowd did not calm down after the human's bold words. Instead, the hall shook with noise, shouts, jeers, and cruel laughter. The alien girl stood frozen, her thin fingers clutching the cloak he had given her. The warmth of the cloth fought against the cold chill of the auction hall, but the voices around her cut deep, sharper than knives. "Look at him," one alien shouted, his scaled arms raised in mock applause. "The human bought garbage." Another voice rang out, mocking. "7 noble buyers rejected her, and he still wants her? Fool!" The auctioneer laughed bitterly. "Do not come crying back to me when she collapses in your arms. She is weak. She is broken. Even animals are stronger than her." The girl's cheeks burned with shame. Every word reminded her of her failures. 7 buyers had already humiliated her, and now even her savior was being mocked because of her. She wanted to hide, to sink into the ground and vanish, but the human did not flinch. His eyes stayed calm, his jaw firm. He looked at the auctioneer once, his voice quiet but cutting through the noise. "Your words do not matter." The auctioneer sneered, waving him off. "Take her then. When she dies in your care, don't say I didn't warn you." The chains clattered as guards moved aside. Some laughed, some shook their heads. "The human is blind," one muttered. "He cannot see what she really is." The girl stumbled forward, the heavy cuffs now gone but the mark still burning her wrists. The human's hand moved slightly, steadying her when she faltered. That simple gesture shocked her more than all the insults thrown in the room. No one had ever cared if she fell. No one had ever tried to catch her, but the crowd would not stop. The insults grew louder as they walked. "She is cursed. She will betray you. She is nothing but waste." Each word struck the girl like a blow. Her heart wanted to close again, to believe the voices, to sink back into despair. But beside her the human walked forward, step by steady step, as if the voices were nothing more than wind. Finally, one alien blocked their path. His body was huge, his tusks sharp, his laughter cruel. "Tell us, human," he mocked. "Why waste your gold on this broken thing? Do you not see she has no worth?" The hall grew silent, waiting. The girl held her breath. Even she wanted to hear his answer. The human looked up at the giant, his eyes firm. His words were simple, but they cut deeper than any weapon. "Because she is alive. And that is enough," the silence stretched. Then the giant alien barked with laughter, shaking the hall. "Alive, that is all you care for? Then you are more broken than she is." The crowd exploded again with laughter, mocking, cruel, and endless. The girl's throat tightened. She expected the human to falter, to turn away, to regret his choice. But he did not. His hand brushed her shoulder lightly, urging her forward past the giant alien, past the hall filled with venom. He did not speak again. He did not defend himself further. His actions were enough. As they moved toward the exit, the laughter grew faint behind them. Yet the girl's heart was heavy. She could still hear the words echoing inside her. Broken, worthless, cursed. She had carried these words for so long that they had become part of her. Could one man's kindness erase them? Outside the auction hall, the night was cold. The wind carried dust across the empty streets. The girl pulled the cloak tighter around herself, shivering. The human glanced at her once, then reached into his pack again. He handed her a small piece of bread. Her eyes widened. Her hands trembled as she took it. No one had given her food without demand, without cruelty, without mockery. She stared at the bread for a long moment, then finally took a small bite. The warmth filled her mouth, so simple yet so overwhelming. Tears pricked her eyes again. He walked in silence, giving her space, not pushing her to speak. For the first time, she realized he expected nothing from her. Not obedience, not strength, not value, just her being. She whispered softly, almost too quiet for him to hear. "Why? Why would you choose me?" He looked at her. His answer was the same, firm and unshaken. "Because you are not broken." Her lips trembled. The words clashed with everything she had been told. 7 buyers had called her broken. 7 voices had crushed her. But this one human stood against them all, saying the opposite. Her heart did not believe yet, but for the first time, it wanted to. And though the voices of mockery still echoed behind her, the sound of his steady steps beside her was louder. The streets outside the auction hall were empty, yet the echo of cruel laughter still clung to the alien girl's ears. She walked slowly, the human beside her, each step heavier than the last. The cloak around her shoulders felt warm, but her heart was still wrapped in the cold words she had heard for so long. Broken, worthless, cursed. The human's presence was steady. He did not speak much, but silence with him felt different. It wasn't filled with judgment. It wasn't heavy with cruelty. It was calm. And yet the girl could not shake her fear. Every time she dared to glance at him, she wondered why. Why would a stranger speak for her when no one else had? Why would he risk the laughter of the entire hall? She wanted to ask, but her voice was trapped inside her chest, trembling, afraid of the answer. They turned into a narrow alley lit by dim lanterns. The city was alive in the distance, traders shouting, machines grinding, the endless hum of alien voices. But here it was quieter. The girl finally spoke, her voice fragile, like glass ready to break. "Why did you say those words?" She whispered. The human looked at her. His steps slowed. "Which words?" She gripped the cloak tighter. "When they mocked me. When they laughed. You said you wanted me." Her voice cracked on the last word. "Why, you heard them. They all said I am broken." For a moment, silence stretched between them. The lantern above flickered, throwing shadows across the stone walls. Then the human's voice came, low, calm, and without hesitation. "I said it because it was true. I wanted you." Her breath caught. The words sank into her heart like drops of water into dry earth. She shook her head quickly, almost panicked. "No, no one wants me. 7 already sent me back. 7, you heard them. They all cannot be wrong." But the human's gaze did not falter. 7 voices can still be lies," he said softly. "One truth can be louder than all of them." Her knees weakened. She stopped walking, her feet planted on the rough stones. She stared at him, eyes wide, searching his face for cruelty, for mockery, for the trick she had been waiting for. But she saw none. His eyes were steady, honest. Her heart raced faster, torn between fear and something else, something she had not felt in years. Hope. Behind them, faint echoes of the auction hall still rose, as if the voices of mockery refused to die. But here, in this quiet alley, a new voice lived, one that spoke differently. The girl's voice trembled. "But I am weak. I cannot serve you. I cannot bring you value." The human's reply was simple, almost too simple for her to believe. "You are alive. That is your value." Her breath shuddered out of her chest. No one had ever said that to her. Her mind wanted to reject it, to call it another false kindness, but her heart clung to it desperately, like a drowning soul reaching for air. For a long moment, she stood frozen. Then slowly her lips parted. "I don't understand you." "That's fine," the human said, beginning to walk again. His voice carried no demand, no weight. "You don't need to." "Not yet." He offered his hand, not forcing, just waiting. The cloak slipped slightly from her shoulder as she stared at his open palm. Her fingers twitched. Fear screamed inside her. Don't trust, don't reach, don't hope. But her heart whispered louder. Try once, just once. Her hand, trembling, rose and touched his. His grip was firm but gentle, grounding her, steadying her. It was not the grip of ownership. It was not the grip of demand. It was the grip of someone who would not let her fall. In that moment, the laughter of the crowd seemed far away. The 7 rejections, the chains, the cruel whispers, they all felt like fading echoes. What remained was this single truth. One voice, one choice had broken through them all. As they walked together under the dim lantern light, the girl's thoughts swirled. She still did not believe fully. Fear still coiled inside her. But for the first time she wanted to believe. Her steps grew steadier, her shoulders less heavy. Every glance at the human reminded her that the voice she had heard in that hall was real. Not cruel. Not mocking. A voice that wanted her. And though doubt still lived in her chest, another truth had been born, fragile but alive. One voice, stronger than 7. One human who had said, "I want her." And for the first time she wondered, maybe she was not broken after all. The night air outside the auction hall was thin and sharp. Dust swirled in the wind, carrying the echo of jeers that still lingered behind them. The human walked steadily, his hand guiding the alien girl as she clutched the cloak close to her chest. For a moment it seemed they had escaped, but the shadows were not done with them. 2 guards stepped forward, blocking the narrow street. Their armor glinted under the lantern light, and their faces twisted with disdain. Behind them, the auctioneer himself followed, his long robe dragging across the stones. His eyes burned with greed and mockery. "Stop right there," the auctioneer barked. "You paid for her, yes, but I cannot allow this insult to stand. She is broken, human. She will ruin you." The girl froze, her heart pounding. Fear returned like a storm. She had seen this before. buyers taking her away only to send her back with harsher words, crueler punishments. What if this man did the same? What if he regretted his choice now? The human's hand did not let go of hers. His voice was calm, firm, steady. She belongs to no one. Not you, not them. Not even me. The guards laughed harshly. Listen to him. Talking about freedom? She is a reject. A piece of wasted flesh. What will you do with her, human? Heal her, save her? The auctioneer sneered, his tone dripping with venom. You think you are strong because you paid? You are blind. She cannot work. She cannot fight. She cannot serve. She is nothing. Return her now, and I will spare you the shame. The girl's breath caught. Return her. The word pierced through her chest like a blade. Her trembling fingers tightened around the cloak. She did not want to go back, not to the chains, not to the laughter. But if he listened to them, she had no power to stop it. For a heartbeat, the world was silent. The auctioneer's words hung heavy in the air. The girl braced herself for rejection, for the 8th time the cruel ending she had come to expect. But then the human spoke. No. The word was quiet. But it carried weight, like stone dropped into still water. The auctioneer's eyes widened. What did you say? The human's gaze did not waver. I said no. She is not broken. And I will not return her. The guards stiffened, their hands moving to their weapons. The girl's heart raced faster. She wanted to cry out, to beg him not to fight, not to get hurt for her sake. But he did not raise a blade. He did not clench his fists. Instead, he stood tall, his voice louder this time, steady and unshaken. You call her worthless because you cannot see. You call her broken because you never cared to look deeper. But I see her. She breathes. She endures. And that is more strength than all of you mocking her. The guards hesitated. The auctioneer snarled, his face red with rage. You dare to defy me, human? Do you know who I am? The human's eyes narrowed slightly. A man who sells lives as if they are objects. His tone was sharp now, cutting. That is all you are. The girl's chest tightened. She stared at him, her vision blurring with tears. No one had ever spoken like this, not for her, not for anyone like her. His words lit something in her heart that had long been dead. The auctioneer raised his hand, signaling the guards. Take her back. Take them both if you must. But the guards hesitated. The human had not moved, yet there was something in his presence, in his calm defiance, that made even armed men falter. His eyes held no fear, only certainty. The girl realized then, he was not just standing against them for himself. He was standing for her. The auctioneer spat on the ground, fury twisting his face. Fine, keep your broken toy, human. But remember this, when she fails you, when she betrays you, do not come crawling back. The guard stepped aside reluctantly. The human did not reply. He simply guided the girl forward, past the auctioneer, past the sneers, past the chains that once bound her. They walked in silence for a while, the night sky stretching above them, stars faint and distant. The girl's mind was a storm of thoughts, but one truth rang louder than all the chaos. He had stood, not with fists, not with threats, but with words that no one had ever spoken for her before, words that declared she was not broken. Finally, her trembling voice rose. Why do you fight for me? The human glanced at her, his eyes steady. His answer was simple, like always. Because someone should have. Long ago, her throat tightened. Her eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to weep. Not from pain, not from despair, but from the fragile, terrifying feeling blooming inside her. Hope. The city grew quieter as they left the auction district behind. The noisy crowds, the laughter, the cruel eyes, slowly all of it faded into the distance. The alien girl walked close to the human, clutching the cloak he had given her as if it was the only shield she had in the world. Her body was weak. Every step felt heavy and her knees threatened to give way. For years she had been dragged, pushed, commanded, never cared for. The fear in her chest whispered that at any moment he too would change. That his kindness was just a mask, but he did not push her. He did not order her. Instead, when he noticed her stumble, he slowed his steps to match hers. That small act alone made her chest tighten in confusion. They reached the edge of the city where stone walls gave way to a quieter path. The human stopped near a broken fountain. He set down his pack and looked at her. You need to sit, he said softly. The girl shook her head quickly, almost afraid. No, I can stand. I must stand. If I rest, you will think I am weak. His expression did not change. Calm, steady. You are tired. That's not weakness, sit. The firmness in his voice was not cruel, it was protective. Unsure, trembling, she lowered herself onto the edge of the fountain. Her arms wrapped around her thin frame. Her eyes stayed low, afraid to meet his. The human opened his pack. From inside, he pulled out a small flask of water and a piece of bread wrapped in cloth. He placed them gently in front of her. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted, but no sound came. No one had ever offered her food. Food had always been thrown at her like scraps. Sometimes she had fought other slaves for crumbs, but here it was in front of her, given with quiet care. Her hands shook as she reached for it. She hesitated, staring at him. Is this for me? He nodded once. Yes, for you. She picked up the bread slowly, almost reverently. She took a small bite, expecting it to be dry, bitter. Instead, it was soft and warm. The taste filled her mouth and spread through her chest like fire in the cold. Tears welled in her eyes without warning. She quickly lowered her face, ashamed to show him. The human said nothing. He simply sat across from her, sipping from his own flask, as if sharing a quiet meal was the most natural thing in the world. Her voice trembled as she whispered, Why are you doing this? He looked at her. His answer was as simple as before, and because you're hungry. The words broke her. She pressed the bread to her lips, but tears spilled down her cheeks. Hungry, that was all. Not broken, not useless, not cursed, just hungry. For the first time, her need was not mocked, not used against her. It was seen, and it was met. When she finished, he handed her the flask. She drank slowly, water dripping down her chin. It was the purest thing she had tasted in years. She wiped her face with the edge of the cloak, feeling something she could not name swelling in her chest. The human spoke again, quiet, but firm. From now on, you don't need to beg. You don't need to fight for scraps. If you are hungry, you will eat. If you are tired, you will rest. That's all. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. But I'm yours now. I must serve. I must give value, or you will... She stopped, her throat closing on the words. Send me back. His gaze softened, but his voice carried strength. You don't owe me anything. Not food, not work, not service. You are not an object. You are alive. That is enough. The girl's breath caught. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that she was worthless. But the words died in her mouth. His tone left no space for doubt. For the first time in her life, she was allowed to eat because she was hungry. For the first time, she was allowed to sit because she was tired. For the first time, someone looked at her and saw more than chains and flaws. The night deepened around them, stars appearing in the sky. She wrapped the cloak tighter, the warmth of bread and water still in her chest. Her tears slowed, replaced by a strange, trembling feeling she had never dared to hold before. Kindness. It was simple. It was quiet. But to her, it was more powerful than any chain that had ever bound her. And as she sat under the stars, she realized this was not the end of her story. It was the first step of something new, something terrifying, fragile, and precious, her first kindness. The path beyond the city was rough, lit only by pale starlight. Cracked stones and dust stretched into the horizon, and the air grew colder with each step away from the noisy markets. The alien girl walked close to the human, the cloak tight around her shoulders. Every sound, the crunch of gravel, the whisper of wind, felt sharper in the quiet night. She had never walked freely beyond the walls. Every time she had left the city before, it had been in chains, dragged behind buyers who soon returned her. Now there were no chains. Her wrists were free. Her steps were her own, yet her heart did not know how to believe it. The silence between them was strange but not heavy. The human carried his pack over one shoulder, his stride steady. He did not rush her. He did not pull her. He matched her pace as if he had all the time in the world. Still, fear whispered inside her mind. What if he changes? What if this is just another lie? She had been hurt too many times to trust easily. The cloak was warm. The bread had filled her, but shadows of doubt clung tightly. Finally, she spoke, her voice trembling in the night air. Why are we leaving the city? The human glanced at her. Because it's not safe there for you. Her brow furrowed. Not safe? Those who mocked you. Some will not stop. Some may try to take you back. His tone stayed calm but firm. Out here it's quieter. Out here they have no power. His words sent a shiver down her spine. She looked over her shoulder, half expecting to see shadows chasing them. But the road was empty, silent, except for the distant glow of the city fading behind them. They walked until they reached a ridge where the land dipped into a valley. From the top, the girl saw the stars stretch endlessly above her. It had been years since she had looked at the sky without chains pulling her down. The sight made her chest ache with something she couldn't name. The human set down his pack and began gathering dry branches from the roadside. She watched, confused. When he struck flint against stone, sparks lit a small fire. The glow pushed back the darkness, painting warmth across his face. Her voice was soft, almost fearful. Why? Why are you making fire? He looked up at her. Because you're cold. Her heart stopped for a moment. The word struck her harder than the chill of night. No one had ever noticed her shivers before. No one had cared if her body froze in the dark. She pulled the cloak tighter, sinking to her knees beside the fire, staring into the flames. The warmth touched her skin, seeping slowly into her bones. She closed her eyes briefly, afraid of the tears threatening to fall again. She hated how fragile she felt, how easily his simple acts of care broke through her defenses. The human handed her another piece of bread, then sat opposite her across the fire. He didn't stare at her. He didn't demand words. He just sat, his quiet presence steady, as if silence itself was enough. Her thoughts twisted painfully. Why does he do this? What does he want from me? She wanted to ask, but fear of the answer kept her mouth closed. After a long silence, she whispered, "You will regret this." His eyes lifted to her, calm, unshaken. Why do you think that? Her gaze stayed on the fire. Because everyone does. At first they look at me. They try to use me. Then they send me back. They always send me back. Her voice cracked, trembling with shame. You will too. The fire popped softly, embers rising into the dark. The human leaned forward slightly, his voice firm, carrying no doubt. No, I won't, she lifted her head, startled. His eyes met hers, steady, certain, unyielding. There was no cruelty there, no trick, no hidden mockery, only truth. Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him, wanted to hold on to those words, but the chains of her past still clung tightly. She lowered her gaze again, whispering, "You don't know me." "You're right," he said calmly. "Not yet. But I will." The words sank deep into her heart, leaving her silent. The idea that someone wanted to know her, not discard her, was something she could not understand. The fire burned gently between them, casting shadows across their faces. She wrapped the cloak tighter, listening to the sound of the crackling wood, the steady rhythm of his breathing, the calmness in the night. For the first time outside the city, she felt a small shift inside her. Fear was still there. Doubt still lived in her chest. But alongside them, fragile and trembling, a new feeling grew. Safety. It was not complete. It was not strong yet, but it was there. And it was hers. And as she watched the human across the fire, she wondered if perhaps the journey out was not just leaving the city. Perhaps it was leaving behind the chains of her past, step by step, night by night. The fire had burned low, glowing embers painting soft light across the rocky ground. The alien girl sat wrapped in the cloak, her thin frame hidden in its folds, her eyes reflecting the dying flames. The night around them was vast and quiet, the city now nothing but a faint glow on the horizon. She had not spoken for a long time. The bread was gone, the water flask nearly empty. The human sat nearby, silent, sharpening a small blade with calm, unhurried movements. His presence was steady like the fire itself, constant, grounding. But inside her chest, a storm raged. Every word from the auction still echoed, broken, worthless, cursed. And then his voice, "I want her. She's alive." That's enough. His kindness, his stand, the food, the fire. It was more than she had ever been given, yet her heart fought against it, too scarred to trust, too bruised to hope. At last, unable to bear the weight any longer, she whispered, her voice fragile. "Why?" The human paused, lifting his gaze. "Why what?" Her fingers clenched the edge of the cloak. She dared to look at him, though her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Why did you want me?" The silence stretched. Her chest tightened as she waited, terrified of the answer. She had heard so many reasons before, cruel, cold reasons. Too weak, too broken, worthless. What if his answer was the same? What if this had all been a cruel delay before rejection? The human set the blade aside. He leaned forward slightly, the firelight catching his face. His voice came, quiet but clear. Because you were alone. Her breath caught. Alone. The word struck deep, because it was true. She had been surrounded by chains, voices, buyers, but she had always been alone. He continued, his tone steady, as if each word was carved from stone. They looked at you and saw something broken. I looked at you and saw someone abandoned, someone who should never have been left like that. No one should stand alone in chains. Her tears spilled over, hot against her cheeks. She shook her head weakly. But I am nothing. I have nothing to give. The human's gaze did not waver. You don't need to give. You only need to live. The words shattered something inside her. For so long she had believed she had to prove worth, had to serve, had to earn survival. Yet here was someone saying her existence was enough. She pressed her hands to her face, sobs shaking her thin frame. The human did not move closer. He did not rush her. He simply let her cry, the fire crackling softly between them. His silence was not cruel, it was patient. When her tears finally slowed, she lowered her hands, her voice hoarse. You cannot mean this. One day you will see the truth. You will see that I am not what you think. He tilted his head, his eyes calm. Then I will see you as you are, and still I will not leave. Her heart stuttered. The words were too much, too heavy, too impossible to believe. But a small part of her, the part that had been buried, the part that had almost died, ached to trust him. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of dust and stars. She looked up at the sky, vast and endless. For the first time in years, the stars did not feel like cold, distant lights. They felt like witnesses. Witnesses to a moment that could change everything. Slowly, her trembling voice rose again. Then what am I to you? The human's answer was quiet, almost a whisper, but it carried through the night like a vow. You are not broken. You are a beginning. Her chest tightened painfully, her breath catching as fresh tears blurred her vision. A beginning. Not an end, not trash, not worthless, but a beginning. The embers glowed brighter for a moment, as if the fire itself heard the words. She pulled the cloak tighter, closing her eyes, letting the warmth of the flames and his voice wrap around her. For the first time in her life, she did not pray for it all to end. She prayed for tomorrow, and as the screen faded to black, the audience would be left with a question burning in their hearts. What will become of a girl who was once called broken, now reborn as a beginning?